What common misconceptions do people have about living trusts and how do you address them?
Another great question. The biggest misconception is that a living trust needs to be done by an attorney because they don't understand what an actual living trust is. A living trust is a contract between you, which is the trustee, and your kids, which are the beneficiaries. It means it's basically a contract that tells your kids exactly what you want to have happen when you're no longer here. That the courts help enforce. So a living trust is a contract between you and your kids telling them what you want to have happen, and the courts help enforce it in case somebody gets out of line. Not everybody has kids that follow the instructions, or maybe they use a third party to be able to instruct it, and a living trust is. So that's the first misconception, is that you need an attorney. An attorney and a contract that the courts recognize has to have the legal provisions that each state in America, like for example, I just was on a podcast out of Canada, and they have estate planning as well. There's different provisions in every country, but every country has an estate plan. Every country wants to protect their citizens. Why does estate planning even exist? Most governments and most people said, we want to protect our citizens of the land. And how we protect them is to make sure that their land or their assets, because, back when this law was created, it was created to protect because everybody had land, not many houses and apartments and flats and all these other things, or money in the bank, right? What they had was land. So they wanted to make sure that the land got transferred to the appropriate beneficiary. They wanted to make sure it went to your kids. So then they said, well, you know what? You need to have a will. Then wills were only 2 pages long or 1 page long. I love you. I leave you everything. And then they started to create all of these different types of wills. And then they said, well, you know what? We need a stronger document that has more legal provisions and that there is no doubt without reason that you executed it. So then they created an estate plan that is now the difference between a will and a living trust in documents. Is a will is 1 to 2 pages. If an attorney helps you draw it up and they charge you $500, maybe 3 pages. If a comprehensive living trust starts off at 150 pages. I have one trust, a gentleman had owned firearms because in California, we have firearms. He owned a business, he owned firearms, he owned a home, and he owned some collectibles. And he had a lot of instructions on his comprehensive living trust. And so what we did is we created a living trust for him, and it was like 270 pages that it came out to because it was on there. So one biggest misconception is that it needs to be done by an attorney. 1, it does. 2, living trusts are not all created equal. Some have bare minimum of provisions, but they don't have all of the comprehensive living trust documents that you need to be able to have everything to secure your family and to secure your assets, which is the most important thing in case things happen.